Hey, good morning. We're on chapter 4 still. Y'all, it's a really good book. And there's stuff that I did not clock when I first read this, so I'm grateful to reread it. But we're now on pre-modern relations between Africa and Europe. Because one's senses of the past is so often conceptually distorted by a consciousness whose natural world of things and relationships is the present, it is important to recall that the collisions of the black and white races began long before the events of the 15th and 16th centuries that prefigured modern African slavery. The obliteration of the African past from European consciousness was the accumulation of a process 1,000 years long and one at the root of European historical identity. More than a millennium before the beginning of the Christian era, civilizations of the eastern and northern Mediterranean had encountered at least one of the biggest high civilizations of Africa. The Mediterranean, Egypt, Greece, and Rome. Ancient Egypt was a land primarily of peasants and farmers whose chief preoccupations centered on the Nile's benefice. I think that's how you're supposed to say it. Benefice? Y'all, the best pens in the world. Look at my notes. Look at these notes, y'all. And then with these notes, I need to figure out how to make it a PDF. I'm going to take pictures of them, put them in a PDF, and then put them all up to Discord. But let's look up how you're supposed to say this word, because sometimes I'm a little dumb. Where'd it go? Oh. A moral obligation to act in a way that benefits others, promotes their well-being, and legitimate interests. Oh, okay, but pronunciation. Hello? Beneficence. There we go. Thank you. Beneficence. It appears quite likely that the state emerged as a direct result of the administrative requirements involved in planning and controlling the waters the Nile brought or did not bring during its periods of inundation. You know what's really cool? You saw those clicking in my brain, though, right? I loved taking this class, Black Philosophy, Ritual, and Religion. I really want to go back to college. And I want to take a lot more classes. Like, oh my gosh. I do really want to go back to college. Oh my god, I have like a hair wrap. My hair is just... Anyways, yeah, I really want to go back to college. Reservoirs, dikes, but D-I-K-E-S. Right. Canals and dams became the means of preserving the land during the frequent periods of drought. Once institutionalized, the state became the basis of the world system, extending Egyptian civilization down the Nile into eastern and northern Mediterranean lands. As early as the Egyptian 19th century, dynasty, 1320 through 1200 BC, the Lukku, L-U-K-K-U, in parentheses, lichens, and Teresh, in parentheses, Tarzanians, and the, oh my god, and the Akaiwasha, in parentheses, the Aishians. And other mercenaries are allies of the Hittites, Hittitties, and most probably the former, had been recorded on the stele Stele. What the fuck? I mean, what the heck? What are these words?
Steel.
Steel. Botany. Oh, archaeology. Another form of stela. Oh, that's what that looked like. Okay. What the heck? The steel of Mernita. Mernepot. Merneptah. In parentheses 1236 through 23 BC, as among the enemies of Egypt who he had defeated. Greek traditions themselves speak to the founding of Egyptian colonies, Attica and Argolis in Greece in the 15th and 16th and 14th, in the 15th and 14th centuries. 700 years passed before the historical evidence as it presently preserved reveals another encounter. In the 7th and 6th centuries BC, Ionian and Carian mercenaries served the pharaohs Psamtik the First, Psamtik the First, from 663 through 609 BC, and him, but the second, Psamtik the second, from 594 through 88 BC. It's interesting how time is like documented, because sometimes I'm like, what, why? But anyways, among their other duties, they were used to man the garrison at the Pelusian Daphne, now the western Sinai, and along with Greek merchant traders encouraged to settle at Naucratis, Naucratis, near the capital of Sais in the Western Nile, had been forbidden residence in Egypt. This dependence on foreign mercenaries to defend its borders was one symptom of the weakness of an Egyptian state that would succumb to the Assyrians less than half a century later. In the 5th century BC, Herodotus, how did my professor, she said it, Herodotus? This is my coffee. Sorry. Herodotus, the first of Europe's historians, traced Egyptian colonial settlements as far as the northern Black Sea region. Herodotus described a black people, the Coletians. They were black-skinned and had woolly hair, living in what at present is Soviet Georgia. Herodotus, I don't know why I can't say that properly. Herodotus? It's not, what? Herodotus? Pronunciation. Herodotus. Yum. Oh, what am I doing? believed that the Colossians were descendants of an Egyptian army under King Caesaritus, believed to be a composite of Seti the first from 1313 to 1301 BC and Ramesses the second 1301 to 1234 BC. 1234. He also noted the participation of Ethiopian soldiers under what is this? It's okay. Xerxes. Okay, in the Persian Wars. Herodotus's reference to black peoples may be taken quite literally, since his Egyptian travels around 440 BC took him up the Nile as far as the Elephantine, an island opposite of modern Aswan, fully acquainted him with the people whom he called Ethiopians. From the pre-Christian 7th century on, Egyptian law, science, religion, and philosophy began to have dramatic impacts on the development of Ionian and Greek thought, which is really interesting. Okay, it's so interesting to see the ways that things are translated. Okay, you know how you look in the hieroglyphs type shit? Oh, I took this class, intro to Egyptian hieroglyphs, and it was talking about how, like, you know what? Let me stop. The Egyptian mysteries, expelled from Greece 300 or 400 years earlier in the struggle against Egyptian imperialism, once again became the basis of Greek development. Now, the spoils of a crumbling state. This time, the mysteries serve to advance intellectual and scientific development rather than a technology extended for purposes of imperialist exploitation. But this is pretty much just saying, like, Greece was the groundwork for Egyptian was the groundwork for Greece, and not groundwork, but like, so I took this class, I'll just say it. I took this class, and it was talking about how during, like, a lot of not a lot, but like, Greeks learned a lot of information from ancient Egyptians. Ancient Egyptians obviously are part of Africa, and like the ways in which white supremacy literally makes it so, like, have you ever heard of this, like, oh my god, too many thoughts, not enough words. Pretty much the Greeks got a lot of information from Egyptians, and then the ways in which people will use like white supremacy to like try to say that Egypt is not a part of Africa, or that they weren't African, or they're not black, and it's like, y'all just can't stand the fact that black people, African people, but also we have to be aware of the fact that back then the conception of race is not the same as the conception of race like now, but they recognize the phenotypical differences between the peoples, like the ways that Herodotus said they had black skin and woolly hair. That's a Negro. Not really, but like trying to be funny when I say that, but he was a black person, or they were black people. And then anyways, let me stop rambling. 2 centuries later, Plato in his Timaeus, Timaeus, while reconstructing the legend of Atlantis, and then parentheses, presumably told to Solon by Egyptian priests during the statesman's visit to Egypt, seems to have accepted in his stride the notion of Egyptians as mentors of Greeks. As Margaret Stefana Drauser had put it, the Greeks felt that their own civilization was new and inexperienced in comparison with the old age traditions and skills of the ancient land where the past still lived in the present. Isn't that interesting, the way that that said the past still lived in the present, and the ways in which, okay, in Egypt, it's like reference to your, oh man, I got 10%. I have to charge my iPad. We'll finish this. Let me stop talking, because I have a lot of documents that I want to put onto Discord as well. I just need to figure out how to like transfer it from my computer to my iPad. Guys, I'm technologically illiterate. I'm not gonna, like, my notes are handwritten. I hate typing on a computer. Um, I have a lot of documents from Black philosophy, ritual religion, and from ancient Egypt. From intro to hieroglyphics, which is so cool. Like, it's just like really, it's amazing to see the ways in which information is like translated and blah blah blah. Anyways, as for the origins of Egyptian civilization itself, both Egyptians and non-Egyptians sources of the ancient period agree. Che Antidote has observed that Egyptians themselves, who should surely be better qualified than anyone to speak of their origin, recognize without ambiguity that their ancestors came from Nubia and the heart of Africa, the land of Amam, or land of the ancestors. Oh my god, I can't believe I just said that, and look at the correlation. I love books. The whole territory of Kush, south of Egypt, was called Land of the Gods by Egyptians. Diodorus, that's what we're going to go with. Siculus, Siculus of Sicily, writing in the 1st century BC, came to a similar conclusion, a conclusion for the most part only quite recently accepted by Western archaeologists and Egyptologists. The civilized Ethiopians, according to Diodorus, was the first to honor the gods whose favor their sick enjoyed, as evidenced by the fact that they had been free from foreign invasion. These Ethiopians were not only prisoners. These Ethiopians were not only pioneers in religion, Diodorus informed us, but also originators of many customs practiced in Egypt, for the Egyptians were colonists of the Ethiopians. From these Ethiopians, the Egyptians derived, for example, beliefs concerning their kings, burial practices, shapes of statues, and forms of letters. One might anticipate during the more than 3,000 years of Egyptian pre-Christian history, the relationship between Lower and Upper Egypt was never a stable one. First, one or the other of the two kingdoms was dominant. During the 8th and 7th centuries, perhaps for the first time, the south, Upper Egypt, Nubia, or Ethiopia, reasserted its dominance, conquering and ruling Lower Egypt until the defeat by the Assyrians in 671 through 61 BC. Unquestionably, Western Egyptologists of the 18th, 19th, and early 20th centuries found the next 2,000 years more palatable to their racial cosmologies and ethnocentrism than Egypt's more recent past. The Romans, of course, succeeded the Greeks. The Romans, of course, succeeded the Greeks as the dominant civilization in the northern Mediterranean. As their empire far exceeded the dimensions of Hellenic adventure, their knowledge of Africa was more extensive. And much like the Greeks, it was those most integral to Rome's imperialist apparatus, its military command, its administrative and colonialistic bureaucrats, and its intelligentsia responsible for the training and education of the ruling class's heirs, who achieved the most intimacy with the continent. Let's highlight that. I'm missing a highlighter somewhere. La-di-da-da. But notice how, like, even now, it's like that same thing with Western imperialism. How, like, the ruling class heirs are trained or groomed into their positions within, you know what I mean? Anyways, okay, yes, I'm comfortable under my blanket with a pillow between my knees, I look very comfortable when I'm reading, because that's the thing. I don't like to read while I'm uncomfortable, because then I don't want to read. I got a lot of books. I need to order some more books, actually. I need to order a book for my grandfather. We're going off topic. The Greeks' actual acquaintance with Africa in large measure had been confined to the upper, in parentheses, southern, and lower, in parentheses, northern Nile regions. It's flipped. It's really interesting the way it's flipped. And I think the Nile goes upside down, but then doesn't that reflect? Never mind. The Romans, however, achieved familiarity with peoples along the Nile, but also assumed relations with African peoples of northwestern Africa, that is Libya and west of Libya, and as far south as Cameroon and the Sudan. As the Greeks had in Egypt, the Romans found in North African peoples, such as the Garamantes, who were black or mixed, evidence found in Cyprus of an earlier period, the 6th century BC, tends to confirm the role of blacks in even late Egyptian history. The Romans had as well encountered black soldiers in the army of Hannibal, the Carthaginian, which invaded Europe in 218 BC. The Romans were also known to have sent military expeditions and have established military posts and diplomatic relations among peoples south of Egypt. These efforts were in keeping with the attempt to secure the southern boundaries of their Egyptian colony and to preserve trade routes to Meroe, the eastern desert in Central Africa. Peace, however, was elusive, as evidenced by the successive wars fought against the armies of the Ethiopian queen Candace, Candace, during the last third of the 1st century BC. In addition, an Ethiopian people, the Blemmyes, Blemmyes, fought continuous wars with Roman armies from 250 AD to 545 AD. West of the Egyptian Delta, Roman military expeditions in 86 AD, and a few years later may have penetrated as far as Lake Chad. The purpose seems to have been primarily in defense of trade routes and caravans, though joint efforts. Wait, let me highlight that. That's the most important part. Though joint efforts with the Garamantes may have, I fear I'm saying that one incorrectly, but I don't want to look it up right now, may have related directly to the state's interests in Rome's African allies. Yet, despite their less than cordial relations with Africans, the Romans, like their Greek predecessors, did not evolve prejudices of color and race. Social intercourse did not give rise among Greeks and Romans to the color prejudice of certain later Western societies. The Greeks and Romans developed no doctrines of white superiority unsupported by facts or theoretical justifications for a color bar. The presence of a large number of Negroes in a white society, according to some modern views, gives rise to anti-Negro feelings, which is false. Ethiopians were far from rare sights in the Greco-Roman, particularly the Roman world. Yet, the intense color prejudice of the modern world was lacking. Although it was impossible to estimate the Negro element in the classical world in terms of precise statistics, it is obvious that the black population in Greece and Italy were larger than has been generally realized, which is really interesting. I might go, how much percentage we got? Oh, we're at 24 minutes. Okay, I'll pause here and then we'll do the Dark Ages. The Dark Ages, Europe and Africa. But I'm going to charge my iPad. But this is not that much of a read. It's only 300 pages, 318, I believe. So wait. We're almost done. I mean, not really, but you get what I mean. Yeah, this much of the book is like notes. So then we have only this much to read, and this is how far we've gotten. That's like 1/3. Girl. And then we get to go into In the Cause of Freedom. I'm excited for that. Okay, so now let me make a little mark, and then we'll go to the next one.